Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of On the Move with the Caravan Sports Preview Show with Jim Powers. This episode, as all of them are brought to you by Wiley Agencies. If you're looking for multiple insurance policies, you can contact Sean Wiley. You can get all those under one agent. That's him. You can give him a call today at his Festus office at 636-764-6294 or his Hillsborough office at 636-333-9903. And as always, as I mentioned, I'm with Jim Powers. It's his show. Jim, how are we doing today?
I'm good, and we're truly on the road. You're out in Columbia at the State Basketball Coaches Association Clinic, which is a great event. A lot of terrific speakers that you guys are gonna see, and so yeah, truly on the road. You're out there. I'm back here in St. Louis, and we got a big weekend of football coming up.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been great. We have in the MBCA is has one of the biggest clinics in the country. It's second only to Texas as far as their active membership and as well as their clinics. And they put on such a good thing. I mean, I'm associated with them, so I kind of sound biased, but at the same time, it is very, very good. And all of our speakers are very impressed on how our clinic goes. But you're 1,000% right. We have some really good football action underway Friday. And we'll talk a little bit about our games last week as we throw those up on the screen, our preview games. We had Crystal City jump back in the win column last week, beating Bayless 52-22. Herculaneum got shut out by Jefferson 35-0. St. Pius X got that road win against a previously undefeated Grandview team 46-14. The big upset in the rankings-wise concerned is Eureka getting knocked off by Kirkwood 14-10. CBC keeps the streak alive against SLU High, winning 49-14. And an exciting game between Lutheran North beating Francis Howell 45-42. So, Jim, let's talk a little bit about those games that we previewed last week and how they ended up shaping up.
Well, not big surprises on the left-hand column, so to say. I mean, you knew Crystal was going to bounce back after that loss to Louisiana last week, so a nice win for them on the road at Bayless. And then you look at what our seven's doing, and I tell you what, you got to take notice right now for our seven. They're playing some great football, and they're doing it via the airwaves. We knew that they had a really nice quarterback, kid that not a lot of people are talking about, but you've got to give them their credit. And then you look over on the other side. Now, you got to give Jeremy Macklin the preseason coach of the year 3 weeks in. I mean, what they dialed up against Eureka was just unbelievable. And, it was an upset. The way Eureka had come in, I mean, they hadn't given up a touchdown the first two games. Kirkwood able to get a couple scores, but I was more impressed with their defense. I mean, they limited Eureka. They slowed them down. They didn't let them get the passing game going, and they had to rely a little bit more on the run. And the Kirkwood guys up front were able to. They came ready to go. They came with their lunch pail and they went to work. So a great win for Kirkwood over Eureka. Then you go down to that bottom one. Holy smokes! Last play of the game, after Lutheran North got a fumble at the 50-yard line with about 45 seconds left. They were able to get it down to the 20, and the play was just unbelievable. Hollis, this kid is turning into be one of the best quarterbacks in the state of Missouri. And what Lutheran North was able to do, beating back-to-back state champions, Blair Oaks last week, Howell this week. I don't think they're on the road, and let's on the road.
Yeah.
Don't think that's ever been done before. And, Kyle Wagner's got those kids playing at the high level. I said this, over the weekend, and I said it last Friday night on Fox 2. I said right now, Lutheran North is your prohibitive favorite in Class 4. They've got a big one in a couple weeks against Maryville, but they've got the Metro games coming up. They're going to have a big game against MICDS. That game's going to be for the Metro Championship. But I'm telling you, really uber impressed with how Lutheran North has grown up, the way they've attacked their schedule, the way they're doing things the right way. Hal's got to get some answers defensively. Offensively, they can score with anybody. But Brent Chinaki and that defensive staff got to figure a few things out. They get a little bit of a breather. They're going to get into GAC play this week, and they'll be able to figure some things out. But if they want to get into where they need to get to, And that's a a top four seed in the district to host a home game. They're going to have to stack up wins, and they're probably going to have to win out to be in that conversation for a top four seed in that district with CBC Kirkwood. And Kirkwood goes a long way in getting points with that victory. CBC with a nice win over SLU High. SLU High is good. CBC just once again showed what they are, who they are. They just flat out win football games.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I mean, I think Francis Howell is still a really good football team.
Yes,
and they're going to get some things taken care of, but their defense has definitely got to step up and match what the offense has been able to do, because the offense has been playing well. The defense just hasn't found their way just yet. But they have great coaching. You don't win a state championship without having good coaching, and they're going to get things turned around. But you're right. They're going to have to win out. They're going to have to put some wins together, and that way they can have a chance in that meat grinder of a Class 6 district. And speaking of Class 6, there's a nice segue for you, Jim. Class 6, we got the polls that came out. And Jim, why don't you give us a little rundown on the Class 6 polls?
Not a lot of movement up top. With Lee Summit North doing what they do, CBC with the victory over SLU High, Liberty North getting another victory. I'm telling you right now, Nixa is a team everybody better watch. This team is good. They are very well coached. Defensively, they're as good as it gets in the state of Missouri. They are going to cause issues for people. DeSmet, nice victory over Chaminade to open up MCC play last week. They move up a spot. They move up a couple spots to the number 5 slot. Rockhurst lost to Lee Summit North. Okay, that's fine. You drop them a couple spots, they're good to go. Jackson Joplin still doing what they do, and then you got to give Seckman the votes. I mean, 3 victories, 3-0. You beat Valley. You're beating up on people. You've got to put Seckman in the poll, and they're well deserved in that number 10 slot right now.
Absolutely. And then, we had Francis Howell dropping out, but I look for them to possibly find their way back in once they get some of those wins stacked on themselves, like you were saying.
I think so. And once again, though, it's going to really depend upon the bottom, that was bottom 4 teams with Oak Park, Jackson, Joplin, Seckman. If any of them lose, you may see Howell move in. But honestly, right now, I lean more towards St. Louis U High getting in over Howell right now. I think they're playing a little bit better than the Vikings. And the Vikings, like I said, no knock on them. I think they're a great team. They've just got to shore up the defensive side of things.
Absolutely. And then looking at Class 5, when we throw that graphic up here, let's talk a little bit about Class 5, Jim.
Eureka drops a couple spots, totally expected after the loss to Kirkwood. Cardinal Ritter will stay at the number 1 slot after initially not playing a game and then scheduling a game against University Academy and taking care of business. Webb City moves up. They're the big mover and shaker this week. They move up 2 spots to number 2. Grain Valley, they fall last week, so they're going to drop a spot. Helias is playing great football. They beat Hannibal in a terrific game last Friday night. Platte County is the team that I think everybody needs to watch. This team, not a lot of people gave them early season love, but they've always been in the mix when it comes down to the state playoffs. They've gotten 3 big victories out of the gate, and they're a team that you better keep an eye on. And then locally, MICDS sitting in that 8th slot, and Rockwood Summit. Last week they stayed at 10. This week they stay at 10. They'll play a Thursday night game against Parkway North, which I think will be a great game. But I also believe that Summit right now, the way they're playing and the way they're doing things, this team, I don't know if they're going to get beat in a regular season.
Right. I mean, they're playing really, really, really well. I was actually surprised that they stayed put, even winning last week. And then we go to Class 4, and Class 4 is another one of those tough ones, Jim. So let's get some thoughts on that.
Well, you know what, and one of my compadres on the panel decided not to give Lutheran North their number 1 vote. They voted for Smithville, and my comment was, "What rock were you hiding under last week?" Yes, Smithville's good. But you beat the Class 3's defending state champ, the Class 5 defending state champ on the road, back-to-back weeks. You are number 1 until you lose. I don't see Lutheran North losing, until that Maryville game. They're there. Hillsboro, another nice victory. They're going to stay in the top 3, and I firmly believe they're a team to watch. And then you got some of the blue bloods. You got Grandview, who's playing some great football right now. Kearney, Hannibal coming off that loss to Elias, but they're going to stay put at 6th. And then really not a lot of movement in the bottom of it. Festus goes down a notch, from 9 to 10. Pleasant Hill's going to move up 1. Pleasant Hill got a really nice victory last weekend. So not a whole lot of moving and shaking when it comes to the Class 4 rankings.
Well, Class 4 has to be tough when Kearney can lose. They're 1-2, and they're still a 5th ranked team with a team like, say, Festus or a team like Pleasant Hill that's right there. It just shows you that Class 4 is a lot tougher. And for someone not to give Lutheran North their number one vote, it kind of seems like someone has maybe an axe to grind. And you hate saying that because you're trying to take for the kids and stuff, but come on now. I mean, is that
I don't know. I mean, I was just like, and I even put, because the one thing we all do is on Saturday and Sunday, we have a Google Doc and we share notes, and I just basically said, back-to-back victories over defending state champs. They are number one until they lose. Bottom line, plain and simple. And guess what? They will beat Smithville. The way they are playing right now, they would beat Smithville. I think that'd be a great game. I would love for that game to be the state championship game the first weekend in December. But right now, Lutheran North is 1, Smithville is 2. That's it. End of story. Done. Finished. Drop it. Lutheran North should get every first place vote out there right now. And I'm done. I'm off my soapbox. I'm done.
Well, I mean, I think that most people in the St. Louis metro area and probably out in Blair Oaks right now would definitely agree with you because they're really good. And again, you hit the nail on the head. I forgot that they were both games on the road.
The road.
Smithville has a loss, and Lutheran North has won 2 games against state champions each week. So again, it is what it is. That's just part of the process. We can, talk about it, and it gives us stuff to talk about and pick apart. But at the end of the day, the game's played on the field underneath the lights, and I look for Smithville to show up every night and play, and Lutheran North, because they're both really great programs. So
yeah, they are, without a doubt.
And with that, we're gonna take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll get into our highlighted matchups. You are watching On the Move at the Caravan Sports Preview Show with Jim Powers. We'll be right back.
I'm the captain of the Pee Wee football team. We may be small, but we are
mighty,
annoying. And you are so tired from playing defense against us that your focus is about to ride the bench. Go, go, go. Thanks, Mom.
Bye.
Come on. And if you have cut rate car insurance, then not even a Hail Mary will save you from paying for this. So get Allstate and be better protected from mayhem, like me.
Mayhem is everywhere. Are you in good hands?
Are you tired of boring sports talk shows? Then tune in to the Coach's Box. These guys don't just talk sports. They talk about whatever the heck they want to talk about. Watch new episodes of the Coach's Box each week for free on Facebook, YouTube, or the Streamline Sports app.
All right, everybody, welcome back to On the Move at the Caravan Sports Preview Show with Jim Powers. We just got done talking about the state polls in Class 6, 5, and 4, and now we're going to move into those highlighted games. But, Jim, I tell you, every week it must be hard to pick 6.
It is. It is. And, I sit there, I look, and it's just like, gosh, good game here. Good. How do we narrow this thing down? I mean, we could sit here and talk about 10 games if we really, really wanted to, but no. And once again, a lot of credit to schedule makers. Now we're getting into conference play. Everybody's kind of gotten out of the silly season a little bit with all the non-con games. Now we're going to start getting into conference matchups, and this is where it gets a lot of fun because you've got that conference hardware on the line. You want to do well because what that's going to do is that's going to get you the points, that's going to get you the seeding, and we get moving into the district tournament coming up here at the end of October. And believe it or not, I mean, we're in week 4. So we're nearly halfway through the season right now, and it's flying by pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, and people like me who love coaching basketball don't mind that either, because now we're getting
Right.
closer that time of year. But for this season, yeah, you're absolutely right. We are nearing the halfway point, and I mean, things are cranking up. They're going to amp up, and I'm telling you, we've got some really good games. You're right. I always bug you. Hey, you got those matchups. I can see it's tough. I saw some of the games. I'm like, I can see where Jim's really struggling with this. So I empathize with you a little bit, even though I'm like, Jim, I need your matchups. You're gonna have to
No,
narrow
you're
it down.
being that guy. You're being the producer, and I get it. I understand, but I also got to just tell you to be quiet every now and then.
This is how our relationship works for the show and other things in
Other things.
podcasting. So we'll go jump into it. That's a whole nother show, probably.
That's a whole other story. That'll
Absolutely.
be the coach's box next week. So
It's definitely off the rails media at that point. So
Yes.
our first matchup, it's going to feature a pair of 1 and 2 teams as the Bishop DeBerg Cavaliers take on the host Windsor Owls. Last week, the Cavaliers defeated Afton 64-24 and broke a 28-game losing streak that dated back to September of 2019. Congratulations to them. DeBerg's ground game was on point as they racked up 220 yards on the ground. And DeBerg will look to make it 2 in a row against a Windsor team that got walloped by Festus last week, 56-7. The Owls have dropped their last 2 games, being outscored 68-7. So, Jim, how do you see this game shaping up?
this is going to be a good one. And I was actually at the DeBerg Afton game. And once again, it was great to see them get the W. Chad Masters has really done a terrific job. Bringing that program back. And they're still in the co-op with Hancock. They got some great kids from Hancock that have come over that are participating, which is great. But boy, I tell you what, I was impressed not only with Keenan Thomas on the ground, and through the air. But people need to look at Jack Masters. This kid's got an arm. He runs that offense really, really well, and he's a fun kid to watch. And he's so calm out on the field. Doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low. Just a really, really good quarterback. And Windsor, they better be ready for the aerial assault because they're going to throw the ball. They love chucking the ball around. Against Afton, they were able to run the ball a little bit more with more success. So it'll be interesting to see how Windsor's going to dial things up. And, Windsor coming off, they got beat up. Let's just call it what it is. They got beat up by Festus last week. And unfortunately, Festus loses to Valley Catholic. Somebody had to be the next game. And unfortunately, Windsor was the next game. But I really like this Windsor team, too. They're a good young team. They're building the program up, and they're doing it the right way. So I think this is going to be a fun game to watch between 2 teams getting some early season success and trying to move forward. DeBerg, if they can get a second win, wow. Once again, we talk about, you haven't won a game since 2019. Now you get 2 victories. That for those kids, that's awesome. For Windsor, they need to get a W because we all know the I-55 is just going to be a gauntlet for them this year. They've already seen it once. Now that they're going to get back into conference play next week, and it's not going to get any easier for them.
No, absolutely not. They already have 2 state-ranked teams in that area that they get to play. So it will be interesting to see how they end up bouncing back and see if they can get that win or if DeBerg can make it 2 in a row. And when you're trying to stack wins and build confidence in your program. And I do like a lot of things that DeBerg is doing. Obviously they were a lot better than they were last year. I saw that even though the score didn't represent how the game actually went. I did see a lot of good things when they played St. Pius, and even though it was a blowout, I'm telling you, there was a lot of really good things. You're like, this team's about to turn the corner. I think I'm going to say it. I might have actually mentioned that, but I really think that they're going to be doing some really good things moving on for the rest of the season. And then we'll get right in our next matchup. It features a big I-55 conference clash, between bitter rivals, and I can speak to that firsthand is on how these 2 teams play each other. Is Jefferson will take on St. Pius X. The Blue Jays improved to 3-0 after dismantling Herculaneum 35-0. Jefferson's defense has been lights out this season, giving up 6 total points, and they were all in week 1 against Cuba. Senior quarterback Cole Williams, as you mentioned earlier, has been a dual offensive threat with 557 yards and 8 touchdowns through the air and 210 yards and 4 touchdowns on the ground. They will take on a Lancer team that also sits at 3-0 after defeating Grandview 46-14. Senior quarterback James Smith had a big day passing the ball as he tossed 4 touchdowns in the win. St. Pius X has won the last 2 matchups against Jefferson, including last year's 27-12 victory. So, Jim, it's hard for me to say because I feel like, I'm going to be a homer. So what's your thoughts on this one?
You're not allowed to talk about this game. Let's just put it that way right now because I know what direction you're going to go. This is the backyard rivalry. All right, let's call it like we see it. Backyard rivalry. The 2 schools are about 4 miles apart from each other. 2 offenses that are just hitting it on all cylinders right now. I really like our 7's quarterback. I love what Pius's quarterback is doing. This game's going to boil down to defense. Who can get the stop when it's needed? I honestly believe that this game goes down to the wire. I think this is a game that is going to propel somebody into being looked at in the state rankings. And I also think conference-wise, you win this game, you're in the catbird seat. You are setting yourself up, with some tougher games down the line, but you're setting yourself up to claim at least some share of that conference title. This is going to be a knockdown, drag-out, heavyweight battle. Going to be a lot of fun. And I'm not going to call anybody on winning this one, but I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to come down to the last. It's going to come down to the last drive.
What's really funny, Jim, is 2 years ago when this game was at St. Pius, we were all there. It was a Hail Mary. It was kind of like
I remember that
Diggs catch, and with the Vikings to win the game. It kind of came down. Colin Smith, James Smith's brother, tossed a game-winning touchdown pass as time expired to Dabrian Moss. Both have since graduated. This is a different team. Both teams are different teams, but I look for something similar to that in this game. So as you said, I will not say my opinion on this game. I don't want any bulletin board material for anyone, whether that's the fine coaches at Jefferson or the people that I know for at St. Pius X. I do know it's going to be a good game, and it should be a lot of fun to watch, and I'm sure the kids will really enjoy it as well. So I think both schools are going to be looking forward to that one on Friday night.
Oh, it'll be a packed house too.
Oh yeah, and there's definitely going to be some folks lined up, around the circle drive in the back, trying to find a spot to watch this, and it's going to be a fun one down in Festus Friday night. Our next matchup is another classic matchup per se, as we have the annual showdown between Hillsboro, who takes their number 3 ranking in Class 4 down to St. Francis County and Bonne Terre to take on North County. Hillsboro sits at 3-0 after winning a barn burner against Fort Zumwalt West last week, 35-28. Senior Darius Jones had a huge day carrying the rock as he picked up 169 yards on the ground on 26 carries, which is you don't see that a lot these days, and found the end zone 3 times. The Hawks defense will look to rebound against a Raiders team that picked up its first win of the season last week against DeSoto 35-3. Despite struggling this year, North County always plays Hillsboro tough. However, the Hawks got the best of the Raiders in last year's matchup, 31-10. So, Jim, what's your thoughts on this one, man? This is going to be one of those games.
This is one of those games to where throw the records out. These 2 teams just flat out don't like each other.
Yes.
And we've seen it. I mean, these are rivals. And there's a little bit of distance that separate them. But the bottom line is these kids just don't like each other. And, you got a Hillsboro team that is just, we thought maybe they would come out of the gate not as fast as they have been without Austin Romaine, which, by the way, he got some playing time last week, collegiately, which was great to see. But, once again, they filled the hole. They've got great production out of their running game right now. And their defense, it's kind of been the bend, not break. They've been caught up in 2, Cape Central, they were in a back-and-forth shootout. Last week against Zumwalt West, it was back-and-forth shootout. So you're kind of seeing the defense bend, not break. But I'm telling you right now, if there's a week to kind of solve the defensive stuff, it's this week against your rival, North County. I like Hillsboro in this one. I just don't think North County can go toe-to-toe with them this year. Take the Hawks, big-time victory, and they'll just continue to move on. You got to remember, the big ones on the horizon. They got Festus coming up in a few weeks, and that is going to be a monster game. And let me just say this. When's the last time Jefferson County has had 3 teams ranked in the state rankings?
It's been a hot minute.
It's
maybe
been a
never.
long time. It's been a long time. You got Hillsborough, you got Festus, you got Suckman. 3 teams ranked. Let's continue to talk about Jeffco football because it is good. They got 3 state-ranked teams. They are good. Don't put them on the back burner. These kids are bringing it every week, and it's great to see.
And you know what's funny is after this week we could have 4. If the winner of the Jefferson St. Pius game could possibly find their way into the rankings, making it 4, as you mentioned. So
I agree 100%. I mean, the winner of that game, I'm putting on the list. I mean, they deserve to be there. The way that they've done their business and the way that they've come out, absolutely, they deserve a look. Down in that Class 2, Class 3, and it's just the winner of that game will deserve it. So yeah, there could be 4 teams.
Yeah, and we'll have to wait and see. You can also check out Prep Sports STL when the rankings are posted, by the way. So don't forget to do that. prepsportsstl.com. A lot of good content. I'm pretty sure I know a guy who writes for them too.
Some guy. I forget his name.
Guy. He's on Fox too.
Some guy getting ready for the Ryder Cup in a couple weeks. That's why I'm representing the red hat.
Here he
that's
is.
Golf. It's not soccer. It's not golf. Okay.
I'm very much aware what the Ryder Cup is. Jeez. Had to bring up soccer on this point in the show every time, too. I just wonder when it is. So there's one. All right. Swear jar is filled. Here we go with our next matchup. It showcases some more big school action as Kirkwood takes on host Hazelwood Central. Last week, the 2-1 Pioneers got a big upset over state-ranked Eureka 14-10, as we mentioned before, as the defense kept the Wildcats off of the scoreboard after the first quarter. Coach Macklin will be facing another former NFL player turned high school head coach as Kerry Davis's Hawks look for their second win of the season. Hazelwood Central comes into this game 2-1 after a loss to Marquette 24-7. The offense will need a big game from senior quarterback Jackson Somerville, who leads the team in passing as well as rushing. Kirkwood won last year's matchup 36-18. So, Jim, which former NFL player leads his team to victory?
J-Mac. Once again, Carrie's working so hard to get that Hazelwood Central program back, to where it was many, many years ago. The great thing is new stadium renovations. They got turf field now. They'll never get lights, which I think is terrible. I would love to see a Hazelwood Central game at night under lights on a Friday night. But Kirkwood, I think they got the win that they needed to kind of get them going. When you beat Eureka the way you did, and it was as highly touted as Eureka was coming in, you get that W. That's going to start setting you up for some things. And so I really think that is going to set Kirkwood up for the rest of the year. Yeah, they're going to have a few more tough games down the line. But once again, Kirkwood put themselves in a really, really good spot, especially when district points, getting that victory against Eureka, putting them into a conversation to be one of those top 4 seeds to where they will get to host first round of districts. So I like Kirkwood in this one, coming off the heels of that victory. And once again, I think that's a big, big jump start for them.
Yeah, and nothing against what Coach Kerry Davis is doing over there at Central. They're just not there yet. I mean, it's going to take a little bit of time, and I agree. I think at some point they're gonna get there, but I don't think right now it's their time to do it just yet. And Coach Macklin has been putting some stuff together. Kirkwood's getting to that point now. I think like you said, last week's win against Eureka was kind of that signature win, and it's going to be something that they can build off of and say, hey, listen, we are for real. We can definitely play, and this could be that springboard that they need, especially like you had mentioned earlier in that district. They're going to need they need to host those home games in their district.
And the nice thing too is everybody's got to remember Kirkwood will have a bye in a couple weeks because of the Turkey Day game. So they'll get a week off, and week offs in the middle of the high school season are really, really good because it lets you get healthier. It lets you rest a little bit, and that's going to be good for them, I think, in the stretch run to get some more victories.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, and moving into our next game, it features, we mentioned earlier, the Wildcats Eureka. They're going to be hosting the Marquette Mustangs. As mentioned in our last game preview, Marquette notched a win last week against Hazelwood Central 24-7 to move to 2-1 on the season. Senior wide receiver Tyree Bonnet, if I say that wrong, if it's Bonet, somebody tell me, had another big day catching the ball, snagging 10 passes through the air for 144 yards and a score. He will need another big game this week for the Mustangs against a tough Wildcats defense that have only allowed 14 points on the season, which all came last week in their loss to Kirkwood. Eureka, excuse me, may have dropped to number 5 this week in the rankings, but their defense is still one of the best around. They will need junior quarterback Casey Hobbleman in the offense to bounce back this week against Marquette. Eureka has won the last 3 matchups against Marquette, including last year's game, 35-28. Jim, are they going to make it 4 in a row?
I don't know. I mean, in all honesty, Marquette's playing great football. They got that loss out of their way a couple weeks ago against Summit. You talk about Eureka getting a loss out of the way against Kirkwood last week. These two teams, part of the, great rivalry in the Rockwood School District. And it's just a fun game to watch. And once again, this is going to be a defensive battle. These two teams got outstanding defenses. And, the offense will come. But once again, I think this is one of those games where it's going to come down to the end. Last team with the ball with the opportunity to win. I don't see anybody blowing this thing out of the water. I think it's a nip and tuck game the whole way through. I'm going to edge towards Eureka just a little bit. But once again, if you're Marquette, you got to stack up some more wins because you're in that district. And if you're in Class 6 District 2, you just have to win every week. That's the only way you are going to ensure you're going to be in that conversation for a top 4, to be able to host our first week. I mean, that's just the bottom line in that thing. And Marquette's in that situation where they need to, come off they came off the loss to Summit a couple weeks ago very nicely. I really think that they're going to be able to keep things going. But Eureka, once again, it's just they don't like losing over there. And I think that the Eureka kids know that this is a big one in order for them to remain state ranked, because if Eureka loses, they're really going to tumble into the poll, down into the lower half of it. I think Marquette wins. I think Marquette could start to see themselves putting it back into the Class 6 bottom part of the poll. So a lot of implications when it comes to districts, when it comes to, state rankings and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, these games right here, they might be conference or rivalry games or whatever, but they have bigger implications down the line when we start looking at the points and the district and how that's all going to shape up. I look for Eureka to win. I agree with you. I don't always like agreeing with you, but I think you know a little bit about this, because I think this is going to be one of those games where the defense is going to show up, and it could come down to the last possession, and it could be could be decided between 3 and 4 points, probably. Just one of those kinds of games. Just the way that these two teams have played each other and play in general.
Absolutely, and they both got terrific place kickers. Don't be surprised if somebody has to hit about a 40, 45-yard field goal to win at the end. And both teams have kids that can do that for you.
It's amazing, man. And you know what a thrill that would be to be in that position to have that opportunity to win the game on someone's foot. Both coaches probably don't want that because the blood pressure, but either way, when you're a fan, you enjoy seeing those kinds of games. You don't like watching blowouts. I'm not a big fan of those.
No, not at all.
Me neither. Especially when I got to pay admission. So,
yeah, exactly.
Our final matchup is a state-ranked matchup, but it's across the river as Edwardsville travels to O'Fallon for a showdown of Illinois powerhouse schools. Edwardsville, number 7 in Class 7A, cruised to a win last week against Soldan, 47-6. In the last 2 games, the Tigers' defense has allowed 12 total points. They will take a test from O'Fallon this week as the Panthers, number 7 in Class 8A, drop their Week 3 matchup against Lincoln Way Central High School. I've never heard of that place, but I'm not from Illinois. 27-10 to fall to 2-1 on the year. O'Fallon's offense looks to get back on track despite averaging 37 points per game on the season. That's after scoring 10 last week. So they're looking to get back on track. Jim, I don't know much about Illinois football, as I mentioned, but these two teams are always finding their way into the rankings each year. That I do know. So what's your thoughts on this one?
Well, this one is real simple. It's these two, East St. Louis in the Southwestern Conference, and then everybody else. Um, Other teams are getting a little bit closer, but it's these three. And basically, the Southwestern Conference turns into a three-team round robin between Edwardsville, O'Fallon, and East St. Louis. Well, we get to see this game early this year, which is awesome. These two teams, once again, great rivalry between these two. Edwardsville has been playing terrific football this year, and O'Fallon has as well. Lincoln Way is a really, really, really good program out of the Chicagoland area, and they give people fits every year, especially when you get into the playoffs. So that loss to up there on Saturday, it's okay. You know what? They'll take the L. Now they got to settle in because the Southwestern Conference. You got if you're O'Fallon, you got to beat Edwardsville. Then you've got to turn around. You've got East St. Louis in a couple weeks. Same thing for Edwardsville. Edwardsville's got to win this one. Then they get the battle with East St. Louis in a few weeks. So once again, it's a three-team round robin in the Southwestern Conference. I like Edwardsville in this game. I just really love their quarterback. He does such a terrific job. And their defense is really, really good again this year. Moving in the right direction. They're going to be a team that's going to make a lot of noise in the 7-8 playoffs over on the O side. And I'm going to tell you right now, O'Fallon, they'll make some waves as well, but must win for each of these two teams just for conference bragging rights, because you don't want a loss hanging over you when you've got to play East St. Louis. And East St. Louis is the cream of the crop over there. Let's just, put it out there. They are the best team in Illinois. I mean, yes, they're 1-2. So what? Who have they played? Let's go down that road. I mean, this is a really, really, really good team. They're going to win the Southwestern Conference. They're going to make it a really deep run, if not win the 6A state championship. But you want to be in the conversations to play them for a conference title in the Southwestern Conference in a few weeks. That's why this game is very important. And honestly, it's the biggest game in the metro area this week. I mean, bar none. When you look at everything, these two teams just put on great, great showcase games year in and year out.
Yeah, and that's, as we mentioned, it's the only state-ranked matchup that we have, I do believe, in the St. Louis metro area. So it is one, and it's always one of those games that, with as you said, it's to see who's gonna challenge East St. Louis, and you want to be in a position where you can do that and
Yes.
have a chance to win that conference. But hey. Even though it's Illinois, there's still some really good football in that area with those schools. And there is no disrespect, because it's hard for those Missouri teams to go and play those schools and come out with wins. And those programs are always in the hunt. And like I said, in the rankings. So I do know that. I know that much.
No, you're right. No, and you know what? It's great. I mean, the football on the Illinois side has been terrific for many, many years, especially in the metro side. I mean, when you've got teams like Waterloo, you've got Columbia. You go a little further over, you've got Bruce Central out of the Carlisle area. I mean, there's just great, great football that's being played. Highland is another team that we talk a lot about. There's great football, and it's fun to see these kids competing. I know there was a black eye that happened last week over in Illinois, and I know a lot of people have heard that, both Cahokia and Granite City had to forfeit their games this week. There was an altercation, bench clearing, and, the state association said, you guys know the rules. Don't have enough to play. Everybody's out for a game. So, you got a Carbondale team and you got a Marion team that's going to get victories this week. And that's going to help that cause. But the bottom line is the football on the other side is really, really good once again this year, and it's a lot of fun to follow.
Yeah, and I mean, I hate admitting that, but you are right, because I am a Missouri native and fan, and but it is, and like I said, credit to those kids and the work they put in, the coaches, as well as coaching those kids up. But again, thank you guys for tuning in for another episode of On the Move, the Sports Caravan. On the Move with the Sports Caravan On the Move with the Caravan Sports
Spit it out.
Preview Show.
Come on.
I know,
I
right?
you
Hey,
do
listen,
it.
I've been doing a lot of work here with the Coaches Association, and I haven't had a lot of sleep because we're trying to get this clinic going. So, but again, thank you guys for tuning in for another episode. Get out and watch some good high school football this Friday night. There's good, and even Thursday night. There's going to be some really good games. And Jim, it's going to be fun, man.
No doubt about it. Have fun in Columbia. Tell everybody I said hello and learn a few things along the way out there. It's going to be a great weekend for you guys.
Hey, I brought my notebook. I got to get all the help I can get. So for Jim Powers, I'm Chris Miller. Thank you guys for tuning in for another episode of On the Move with the Caravan Sports Preview Show. We will see you guys all next week. Have a great one. This episode of On the Move with the Caravan is brought to you by Off the Rails Media. Life's more fun when you're off the rails.
Are you tired of boring sports talk shows? Then tune in to the Coach's Box. These guys don't just talk sports, they talk about whatever the heck they want to talk about. Watch new episodes of the Coach's Box each week for free on Facebook, YouTube, or the Streamline Sports app.